you want financial freedom through real estate, you can actually start small. You don't have to jump into the 70-unit apartment. You can start with a single-family home. You can buy a couple of duplexes, and you can actually learn the business. However you want to achieve financial freedom, I think you should do the way that best fits you, not necessarily what society is telling you, your parents are telling you, your friends are telling you, or maybe that like real estate investor that owns 2 units is telling you.
We haven't touched on this yet, but I mean, most people who have a portfolio of your size do so through raising money and syndications. It is super unique that you own 100% equity in your business. Has there ever been a temptation to raise money, or ultimately, why did you decide to keep 100% of your equity?
Yeah, I think there's a few different reasons. First of all, there's not a right or wrong way to be able to grow your wealth in today. But I do feel like before 2023, it was cool for the last 3 or 4 years to syndicate a deal. Like, you didn't have to know anything about real estate, but if you could find a deal, it would be very easy to find the money. And I think a lot of people put an enormous amount of energy into putting together a deal package that attract money, but they had no idea how to operate it. Now, I'll tell you, those same people are not doing very good right now. In fact, I bought about 1,000 units from them last year.
Wow.
These same syndicators that don't understand how to hold a property management company accountable or even select one, right? We're jumping into their first deal at 100 units. That, I think, is wrong. You should not take people's money if you do not have a good understanding or a fair understanding of how to actually operate the business itself, especially if you're buying unit counts of, 25 plus. That's very, very risky. Like, you don't have to manage it yourself, but you certainly have to know the KPIs or the metrics to look at. I was talking to an investor that's in a big trouble, 2 weeks ago, and he's saying his delinquency is at 11%. I've never been above 1, by the way. And
Wow.
I'm like, how are you holding them accountable? He didn't even know a single process or any questions to ask within it. He just believed whatever the property manager was saying, which the property manager apparently was telling him, like, that's normal right now. 4%, okay. 11, that's not normal. I don't know how to tell you, buddy. Like, they are putting in the wrong people. Their processes aren't great. He just had no idea. And he owns 5% of the deal, right? I'm more scared for the 95% of people, right, that are in the percentage equity owners in the deal. And I think we have a lot of that going on. So anyway, I did not spend my time on how to find the money. I shared in the beginning of this podcast, I decided to spend my time on how do I run this property better. And I think if more people would do maybe both, right? You can still find money and get into deals. There's been a lot of successful people that do that. But most of those successful people actually understand how to run the deals. I didn't know anybody in the beginning. So one of the reasons I decided to keep all the equity is because I literally didn't know who to ask anyway. Okay. And I thought it was easier to just figure out how to get money from the property that I had, which would mean obviously running that business a lot better than the guy before. But I obviously have had opportunities to take money as I became wealthier and wealthier and more successful. And there's a few things that continue to creep up in my mind. First, I don't want to work for somebody else anymore. Okay? So if I do all the hard work finding the deal, I have to do all the hard work running the deal and reposition the deal. All that other person has to do is give me their money. And I just didn't feel like it was a fair trade-off. And then now I got this person asking why I spent $100K here or there on the property that they have no idea how to reposition. So I would say first is I feel very lucky. Like, I can make any decision that I want. It's my money at risk, nobody else's. Helps me sleep better at night because it's nobody else's too. But most of all, because I don't have to answer to anybody. Another big reason is I believe that if you actually know and then have the company to manage and reposition the property, that is the greatest advantage in real estate today. So like, I feel like the person with money is easy. I don't mean that like in an ugly way, but like finding the money is way easier than running the deal well or repositioning a value add property. Because I have the construction arm, because I have the management company, because I'm the one finding the deal, I am literally doing the majority of the work. So like, the percentage that I would have to charge is so enormous that nobody would want to give me their money in the first place. But I feel like that is like, over time, you said, why haven't you pursued money? I thought about it around 1,000 units, but then when I had all these systems like set up, it didn't feel fair. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into building these processes, so I wanted to keep it. And then when I got up to like 2,000 units and I thought about it again, I'm like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Because you might think, well, what about all the deals that you passed on? But like how many units do you need? So like somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 units, it wasn't about building wealth anymore. It was about the game. For me, I want to achieve my full potential. I don't need other people's money to do that. So if I have money left over, like my book says, I want to velocitize it. So I don't want it sitting, and I want to do it in a safe way. So now my goal is not like a unit count goal necessarily, like every single year. It's about how do I reach my full potential? How do I disrupt property management? How do I acquire more properties and do a really good job with those properties, running them, right? So I guess just over time, every time I thought about taking other people's money, the reason changed.
Oh, that's really great. So practically speaking, you mentioned KPIs, and what are some practical things that a real estate investor should look at in their portfolio and holding their property manager accountable? KPIs like percent of your operating expenses on P&L, stuff like that.
Yeah. Before you even talk about property management metrics, like I spend an enormous amount of time on debt obligations, right? You should always know where your debt is. Like I know, I mean, at this point, I think I'm just over 300 million in debt. So I want to make sure, when are my loans coming up? What does that look like? I don't do bridge debt. In fact, I only have 2 loans coming up next year out of my entire portfolio for a total of 7 million. And I'm going to refi those this year. I never wait to get to where it needs to be. I'm just going to wait to maybe the end of summer, depending on where rates are. I know that I only have 3 more loans coming up in 2026. Like the first thing that an investor should look at as you're scaling is your debt obligations. When are they coming up? At what rates are they at? And then how are they performing, right? And again, I shared this earlier. I'm looking at my debt service credit ratio. So my global real estate summary is updated monthly. And I spend my first KPIs on a monthly basis kind of looking at that. Do I need to do anything different with my global real estate summary? Am I over-leveraged? Am I under-leveraged? Do I have debt coming up in the future? I've never let a single loan, I've never done a loan come up and get less than 1 year, right? Just something you don't want to do. Like last year's a pretty tough year for a lot of people, going from like 3% rates to 7 or 8%. I didn't have that tough of a year because of those reasons. Performance standpoint, you always want to know your occupancy rate is. Your leasing is sales. If you have 10% vacancy, right, that's where your focus probably should be. So I like to look at our overall vacancy rates. I love to look at the delinquency numbers, like the things that are going to take money out of your pocket. So those are key KPIs on the income side. I know my percentage of other income after that, right? And then I know my percentage of market lost rent. So meaning that since I'm acquiring so many unstabilized properties, I want to know, like, what should my rent roll be, right? If my rent roll should be 5 million and I'm only at 4.5 million, that 500,000, right, that is lost is coming from rents not at market or delinquency or vacancy. By knowing that really helps me keep a gauge on how we're transitioning these properties. And then other income, don't sleep on other income. Other income's a huge category, anything other than rent. So anything else that you are charging, you want to make sure you understand the percentage of that too. What ratio is coming from that? So what is your maintenance and repairs budget, right? What percentage are you spending on insurance these days? Like, well, if you're in Florida, it's a lot. So,
anywhere it's a lot now.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. That's very true. You want to understand some of those ratios. I would say big ones for me that are not numbers related, I guess like financial related. We score daily. I see a daily report on how fast we answer the phones and the quality of it. It's a really big deal for us. We want to be an experienced company more than a property management company. So most management companies just don't even answer the phone. So I know we had 300 phone calls yesterday and we didn't answer 3 on the second ring. We measure that, right? That's speed. And then our overall experience was a 5.18 out of 6. Pretty good. When you're in the 5s, we dedicate that as a world-class phone call. Speed for when it comes to our service techs, like how fast are we servicing when something goes broke? A lot of people talk about, we're going to make so much money, we just signed the lease. I hate to say this, but you don't make money on signing the lease. You make money on the renewal when people choose to stay with you because you're exchanging value. So for us, we know there's key factors that we have to do that exceed our customers' expectations. And one of those is if you're renting from us and your garbage disposal gets broke, how fast can we get to your house and fix it? In 2022, only 15% of the time, we fixed it actually in 24 hours. Our competition in 2022 was 45 days.
Wow.
45 days in Wisconsin, right? And it's all requests, right? So if you need a brand new fridge, so it's not just garbage disposal, which is why it's so high. 15% in 24 hours. In 2023, we moved that to 88%. So we went from 15% to 88%, right? And this year, our goal is when you call us, or when you put in the maintenance request, I can look you in the eyes and I can say, hey, do you need anything off of Amazon? Because I want you to put in the order off of Amazon, and before Amazon can deliver that package, we will have your garbage disposal fixed. Like, that's where we want to go. Like, we want to beat Amazon. Amazon's so fast in our industry, right? So it's like something great to model ourselves after. Like, my wife puts in an order before I leave for work, and shit, I get home and it's there. So I keep telling my operations guy, we need to beat them. And why, right? Because you don't need to be that fast, but we do. We want to be so good. So I remember when Amazon started, it was shocking that they could deliver so fast, right? I was working at Target, right? Those were people that we were eyeing up. It was just shocking to their customers. So we want to be so good right now when you don't really need to be, like the housing industry, right? Like, there's not enough housing. So I think like most property management companies don't need to provide as good of an experience as they will need to in the future. But we want to make it so hard for somebody to ever leave. So we have different key metrics like that. Obviously, weekly, we get a quality score. Last week, beginning of March, it's we have our most move-ins. So we had over 100 people moving in. I want to know how many of those moved in, right? Was it 98.5% for quality? Whatever you're trying to go after, and for us, it's all about our core values. We know that it's very important to be world-class when it comes to quality. It's very important to have speed. That's a core value. And it's very important to have unparalleled experience. So those big three categories in our company, we want to measure different things and be able to see. So don't just look at vacancy rate is all I'm saying. Like, what are the other KPIs within the business that would help you guys retain the residents or show that your company's moving in the right direction?
And ultimately, I mean, would add to your bottom line too. You're able to charge more in rent because you provide a better service and keep tenants longer. And yeah, it also adds to your bottom line. So
that's incredible.
It is, yeah.
So you mentioned it a little bit, but how much are you doing now work-wise? Because I know financial freedom and time freedom has been big for you. So how much are you spending of your time now in the actual business?
Yeah. So in the property management construction business, about a day and a half.
Okay.
So I spend about, and not exactly like 1 day and a half. My schedule, usually I am working out like in the morning, eating breakfast with my kids, and then I'm doing deep work to about 10 a.m., right? It's about my schedule. And then after that, from 10 to 3 o'clock is usually when I'm fitting in my business stuff. About 3:15, I'm back home. I'm usually coaching my son or daughter on basketball or soccer or something like that. And then I'll work maybe a little bit in the afternoon. So I've really taken my schedule and divided it where I want it to be. I have a hard money lending business, so I spend a little bit of time on that these days. I spend about a day a week still on acquisitions, finding the deal, building relationships, setting the business strategy for a new deal. I mean, we're still closing about 100 a month. So there's a lot that goes into getting that right. Spend about half a day a week on the foundation that we started. So my wife and I are super passionate about that and spending time building it up.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah.
About your foundation.
It's Redefining Futures Foundation. And basically there's two things that we really focus on. One is, so I'm on the board for Habitat. So it's basically like, if you know anything about Habitat for Humanity, they build homes and then give them for 0% mortgages to people. Well, obviously homes and real estate, we have an affordable housing crisis. So that's like a great mission. But what we did instead is we have two big things. One is we're going to buy the homes that are existing, kind of the same concept as apartments, and then we're going to rehab the homes so we can go faster, right? Because we don't have to build them ground up. We can flex all of the resources, rehab that home, and we do everything, right? So there's no deferred maintenance for like 10 plus years. Put somebody into it at a 0% mortgage, a deserving family that qualifies for a lot of different qualifications on our website. And then one of the key differences is the second big part of what we do is we have a platform built on free education. So we have over 100 different online courses, and we're still building them out from amazing people that teach them. And some of them are online, some of them are in person. But that family is not only has to meet our qualifications and obviously, pay for that home at a 0% interest, but they also have to take our courses quarterly and pass them. Because I know that if we can give somebody a $250,000 house, once they're done paying for that house in, let's just say 30 years, it might be worth $1 million. Fair? That's life-changing money for that family that needed a hand up. But I want to change their mind as well as their wealth. And one way to do that is to be able to give them access to education that maybe they didn't get before. Actually, I feel like a lot of people didn't get it before. So we have financial education courses is one of the three. So anything from budgeting 101, to even real estate advice, right? But everything in between. I think there's about 33 courses on different financial education that they can take and that we put it on for free for them. Then we have health. So this is both like literally health, because I feel like other than finances, most people are uneducated what they put in their bodies, but it's also mental health too. And then the last one is life skills. So this is everything. Like this is very broad, but we have some really cool ones like how to interview for a job. You would be amazed by the amount of people that were never taught how to interview or ask the right questions. Or simple ones like, how do you ask your boss for a raise? It's not so simple, right? But we want to teach these. Or completely different, gardening. Like maybe you have a family and you want to know how to garden, and that's something cool you can do as a family. So we're going really, really hard onto the education piece. And actually, I would tell you the key difference between like maybe a Habitat and Redefining Futures is we want to be known for helping make education accessible and teaching these three platforms to everybody. Even if you don't qualify for the home, you can actually get access to our courses so that maybe your courses will make you qualified for our homes. Because obviously, if you don't have the means to be able to pay the mortgage at 0%, or you have a lot of bad credit, you're not going to qualify. But maybe it's because of things that you aren't educated on, and we can help you educate them.
Wow.
That's so awesome.
That's really, really good. That's so cool. So then my next question would be, based on all that and the time that you're spending doing it, why, I think a lot of people would ask, like, why keep going, right? You're at 4,000 units. Me and Austin are very different personalities. I'm like, I probably would have stopped at like 250. I'd be like, I got my stuff. I'm good. I'm just going to coach and, I don't know, chill on a beach. Not a Wisconsin beach, but a real one. Yeah. So like for you, why keep going?
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, I love everything about business. I want to achieve my full potential. And I also think that I could do a lot of good in this world in a few different places as I keep going. So the more wealth I can obviously build, the more money I can pound into my foundation. By the way, my foundation is, I didn't share this, like super efficient. Like my wife and I started giving more and more money every single year. And once we started getting up to like donating 6 digits, I started looking into, and I should have did this sooner, how much operating expense some of these foundations had. One of the places we're giving money to had a 40% OpEx, meaning that only 60% of the money we were giving them was actually going to the cause. I mean, I run some of my apartments better than that.
Yeah.
So like I that was crazy. So that was one of the key things that we did to be able to, of why we wanted to start it. It is certainly the mission, but we also wanted to make sure that we will eventually open it up to other people, and 100% of the money that they give to the foundation will actually go to the cause, because we will sub-fund always all the operations. And right now we're literally the ones just buying the homes, but eventually, once we get this thing really going, we'll open it up to other people to be able to put into it, and we'll be able to look them in the eyes and be like, not like 90% and 10% is going to us, like 100% of your money is actually going to the cause, because there's a different foundation, my wife and I's private foundation, that is always going to fund the operational piece. So anyway, back to your question. I wanted to mention that because some of these foundations are crazy.
That's incredible.
You got to look into what they're actually spending on the cause. The more I can grow, the more wealth that I could give for really good reasons like that, it would be A. B, I already told you I love the game. It's not about the money anymore. It's about the game. I love being able to grow. I love a new deal. I still am attracted by a new deal. Bigger the better. I hope to one day, my biggest transaction was a little over 600 units, but I hope to one day take down 1,000+ unit deal. That's just thrilling to me to be able to figure it out. I don't gamble, but that's like, this would be as close to gamble as I get. So I really, really like it. To answer your question, I don't think I could ever, even on vacation. Last year, we took 11 vacations, so almost once a month, which tells you how well the businesses are running. You got to have good processes. But my favorite morning is you get a good workout and then you get some work done like right away in the morning. Like I just love what I do. So I think where I see myself over the next 5 years is doing a lot of what I'm doing right now. I think we'll probably go the business from 4,000 units to somewhere between 10 to 15,000 units in the next 5 years. Next 10, maybe we'll hit 25,000 units. But I can also tell you that if we were at 5,000 units, like if we grew really slow, I wouldn't care. Like as long as we stick to our principles, as long as we're doing the right things, as long as we're growing the business the right way, and I'm still having fun with it, I think that's what matters. It certainly has made me like less aggressive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think in the beginning I will like, I'm going to figure out how to make this deal work. And some of those deals I'd make money, but I have to put an enormous amount of energy into it. I pass on a lot of those deals now.
No more of those 28 unit.
Yeah.
Not that one. Not that one again.
Yeah.
There can't be that many singular investors in our country that own that amount of units, are there? Like, are there singular investors that own 25,000, 50,000 units?
I think there's some really big ones that most people don't know about. Yeah, I know a couple that are over 10,000 units that I couldn't mention their name because they wouldn't want that, but there's not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, Logan, thanks for being here. This was really awesome. If there's something you want to leave our audience with, what would that be?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I would just say like one of the biggest things we talked about today and that you hit on is that my journey was a little unique, right? And I think I would like, there's not a right or wrong way to do real estate, but what I would share with the audience is you don't have to do it the way that everybody's telling you to do it. Everybody was telling me to take other people's money. You don't have to do it that way. I want the audience to know that if you want financial freedom through real estate, I mean, there's a lot of ways to financial freedom. You don't have to do it that way. You can actually start small. You don't have to jump into the 70-unit apartment. You can start with a single family home. You can buy a couple of duplexes and you can actually learn the business. And if you learn it really well, sure. I think there's ways to be able to compound even faster than I did. The guy that runs my company is growing faster than I was growing in the beginning of his career. He's working in the business that I wish I would have worked in to be able to explode his wealth a little bit more, but he's doing a lot of it with his own money, right? So I think I'd leave that with the investors. However you want to achieve financial freedom, I think you should do the way that best fits you, not necessarily what society is telling you, your parents are telling you, your friends are telling you, or maybe that like real estate investor that owns 2 units is telling you. Like he might just not be right. So do it your own way.
Awesome.